You realise that you were just going into a hell, and if you didn't look tough, you were for trouble, because they would then have gone for us before the refugees. And I said the thing to do is to get the grenades out, let them see. A lot of them are ex-soldiers, these people here, the weapons they were carrying. Let them see you priming grenades, prime the grenades, and that they'll know you mean business then. And doing that, the crowd sort of melted back and away and left us clear. And I suppose we must have been in the station for about 4 hours, something like that. And just as dawn was breaking, we managed to pull away the engine to do the last 14 miles.
There had been very little planning for the movement of refugees or their protection. Most British troops had already been sent home, whilst Indian and Pakistani forces were in total disarray.
They were totally inadequate forces. And the reason was very simple, because the Indian army was being split. At the same time, don't forget that the troops were also concerned about their families, because wherever they came from, the trouble was going on in their homes also. So they were very much concerned. And most of them were on leave, or they were on the process of joining their new unit, or they had already joined. So very few bodies on the ground, really speaking, available to us to deal with the job.
Most trains had no military escorts, with inevitable consequences. John Moores was called to Ambala station to meet a train that had been attacked.
This was a trainload of, I don't know, 500, 600, 700 people, most of whom had been killed, slaughtered, mainly elderly people, young children, young women, and they had been attacked and slaughtered, shot. I can remember seeing a young woman with she was still alive, her head open, cut open, and you could see her brains, and knew there was nothing that we could do. We hadn't got any surgical facilities or anything like that. But it was a horrendous thing. And I still think about it very much.
Art student Satish Gujral helped organize the transportation of refugees. In Amritsar, he saw the hatred partition had brought.
The Muslim girls' school nearby had been raided, and all these girls had been brought out, stripped, then taken in procession to this location, where they were being systematically raped. I have recalled in my life story that when watching it, I looked at the face of those others who were attending it in search of compassion. I found none.
In the coming months, around 15 million people made the journey from one side to the other. At least 1 million were dead. Thousands more lay abandoned in makeshift refugee camps, stuck on the wrong side of the border. The Viceroy now led the relief effort.
My mother was forever visiting the Punjab. She visited in 5 months. She did 70 major tours of the Punjab into the camps and trying to organize the camps, organize the hospitals, get guards on the hospitals, get food. And they soon learned that tell Lady Mountbatten something or answer one of her questions and something will happen.
Pandit Nehru, the new Prime Minister of India, toured some of the camps with her. Finally, he came face to face with the price his people had paid for partition. Satish Gujral was in a refugee camp in Lahore when he arrived.
I vividly recall everything graphically. There the refugees wanted to kill him. He was shocked. A man who grew up as the darling of the people was going to be killed by the same people. I had been in pro-Nehru fellow, but that evening I did not feel, because I thought for the leaders having been truly responsible for all this havoc. So I thought he was only harvesting what he had sowed. So that first time that day, I felt no reverence toward him.
In Lahore, there were now few Hindus left. Somanand and his father were among the last. In the weeks following partition, they came under attack from Muslim gangs seeking a religiously pure Lahore.
And it was free for all in the city. There was no one to check them. So they had come for that purpose, and somebody had given them our address and all that, and they came to kill us. But fortunately, we had a very narrow escape, and I was with a neighbor, with a Muslim neighbor, and they looted, they ransacked the house, took away all the clothes which they could use, all our shoes. And when our Muslim neighbor raised a hue and cry, they said, "We'll shoot you if you support the Kafirs."
It was too much even for Som and his father, who throughout the violence had held out the hope that they could stay on in the city of their birth.
Then we decided to go to Delhi straight away. Went to the airport and came to Delhi with our 2 clothes, nothing. We left in a plane. My father bought 2 tickets for Delhi. I saw our houses when the plane went up and flied over model town. I wept.
In Dillon's village, where the Muslims had been protected by his grandfather, the Indian army arrived one day and ordered the Muslims out.
It was a sort of very heavy moment. There were tearful departures and farewells. The Muslims left most of their assets and properties with their neighbors, thinking that they would be able to come again to pick those things up. Initially, the people felt very remorse about their going. But then, in a couple of days, they try to occupy their homes. They try to take away whatever they had left.
In only a few months, India had been divided along religious lines. The Indian part of the Punjab was cleared of nearly all its Muslims, while Pakistan was emptied of most of its Sikhs and Hindus. Lahore, once one of the most mixed cities in all of India, was now home only to Muslims.
Gone was the cosmopolitan Lahore. Gone was liberal, tolerant, progressive Lahore, you see. But I think culturally, Lahore suffered, you see. It was a great city in those days. It was a great city in those days. With the passage of time, we became more conservative, more backward, more intolerant, more pseudo-Islamic, pseudo-Islamic. You see.
I think the primary responsibility is of the Hindus who didn't treat the Muslims as their equals. That was the root cause. The Muslims and Hindus couldn't integrate despite living together for all these centuries.
With the partition over, the job was done for the few British troops still left in India. John Moores returned to Britain at the end of 1947.
I think the worst thing was that we couldn't stop the violence. The unnecessary cruelty is something which we didn't really know much about.
Mountbatten stayed on in India until the end of 1948 as its Governor-General. He returned to his career in the Navy, becoming First Sea Lord. He was killed by an IRA bomb in 1979.
The whole problem was that Mountbatten tried to do this job in too short a time. To expect a country to be partitioned, a new country to be created, and within 2 months move the portion of the government of India to Pakistan, and to move the troops to Pakistan and from Pakistan to India was a tremendous job. It cannot be done, and that's exactly what happened. Everything went out of control.
Satish Gujral, the art student from Lahore, became one of India's greatest painters.
This experience sank in me so deep after partition and began to paint without any consciously effort. This woman suffering, this brutality of man to man became my theme.
The border created in 1947 would become the focus for 3 wars and 60 years of animosity between the government of India and Pakistan. But for the people of the two countries, it was the tragedy of separation that lingered on.
I missed my friends. I couldn't understand why they had to go. Why were they pushed away? The only thing was that they were being pushed away. I knew they were not going happily, so I couldn't understand why. And I still think, why? What did anybody get out of it?
And on BBC 4 at 11 in Midnight's Grandchildren, 3 British teenagers travelled to the Punjab to see how their families were affected by partition. Coming next here on BBC 2 Newsnight.
What's it really like to be British and Asian today? How has the independence of 60 years ago affected your life? Have your say. Asian Nation continues today on the BBC Asian Network.